What's up guys, SaneTree here and welcome to the first episode of Madstone, a series where I have no idea what I'm doing at all, but at least we have fun and that's, I think, the most important part. Today I want to play around with rails a bit, and to those of you who watch Hermitcraft, this setup I have right here might look similar. Basically, the episodes of Hermitcraft where they were creating these kind of stations inspired me to try to do something in regards to rails. But I thought this way of doing a station is boring. You know, it's just so simple. You just have these few places where you just change the rails, the direction they go in, and it's all simple to build, simple to construct. So I thought, let's check if it is even possible to create a station like that. I mean, not exactly with rails going in these directions, because, well, something is clearly not right here, for example. But, I mean, with this kind of footprint of the intersection, I guess we will try to construct something. I know there is one problem, one major problem I have with this, with even trying to do this, because when you change the direction the rails go in, basically you can't change like the rail turning to the side when you have three possible connections. You need to have two like that, and then when you power this block the rail will flip to the other side. If you have something like that, it won't move at all. So I have an idea of how to get around this, and it's really stupid. But before we get to that one, here is a moderately stupid one. So in theory, if I can work out the timings right, I can pull this off. So the concept is, because you can't change the direction the rail goes in if there are three connections, we reduce the number of those to 2. So every rail now has 2 places it can connect to, and if you want to go right, you just press the button and go right. If you want to go left, this rail changes and you go like that. Well, if you want to go forward, that's a bit more complicated, and I don't know if it will work with this setup. We'll see, I guess, but look at this. This is already huge, and all this does is allow me to go here. And by the way, these lines of redstone here, they don't do anything. Like, they changed this to rails, but they don't even have to, because they are already lined up like this. So yeah, it's starting off really bad. But on a bright note, it's only going to get worse. Well, at least I have something figured out. With this beautiful setup right here, with all the levers and various redstone wires going all over the place, I have found out that this combination can possibly make the minecart go forward. So let's decipher that thing right there. Basically, the top row is activating a certain lever, and they are obviously color marked. Each one has its own rail, sort of. So first we need to activate the white rail, and this will make the minecart go from that one to this one and then to this place. And the trick here, I want to pull off a very difficult thing, I think. So now we need to deactivate that one and then quickly activate, deactivate and activate the pink one, so that something like this happens. And this I hope will make the minecart use the momentum it gained from starting from that position to travel forward. I have no idea if that is the case. We will need to do some quick rail switching action and it will probably be a complete and utter failure. A complete and utter failure. Yes, just like that sentence was. My ability to create accidental clocks amuses me every time. It is time for the first test. The timings are probably way off, but let's go. Yep. Doesn't look very much forward to me. Maybe it didn't work because it doesn't actually change this rail here, but what do I know? Okay, now it looks better. So let's try it. Nope. Okay, now it's gotta work. Just look at this. Look how fast those rails change directions. It has to work. Almost. Unfortunately, it seems like this concept will not work, and I think that is because when a minecart drops on that rail, it gains so much momentum going left that even when this rail changes direction and faces that way, the minecart still wants to go here. And the timings are near perfect, I think. I can show you from this perspective as well. Like, look. The timings are so good. Like, this switch is so quick. And look at this beautiful redstone. Like, look, there's a lamp. And it blinks. How cool is that? I did some further testing of this idea here, but it ultimately led me to nothing, so it's time to go crazy. This here is a station, a minecart station with pistons, because why not? This here is only a temporary testing setup, so by flicking those levers I just tested if what I had in mind is even possible. And it looks like it might be. So did that one, but let's don't talk about it. So we have these two rails, and they will be pushed around, so they create a path for our minecart. So basically, we can do something like this. With this setup, going right is really easy, and so is going forward. If I flip the rails like that, from that position we can go forward without any trouble whatsoever. But going left is a whole different story. What we need to do is create a path, and if we could create like a path like that, so we push that rail here, we turn that one this way and the minecart goes through. Now we can't do that because this rail doesn't want to be turned around, because then it has too many connections. So first we need to, if I remember correct, we need to push that one and take that one so it is in that position. Then we manipulate this rail to face this way. When we are done with that, we push the second rail to the center, and this creates a nice path leading us to the center. But if we were to put like the minecart like that, let it go, we would end up here, and yeah, our journey is finished. So what I figured might work is taking the rail to this position, and then when the minecart is here, pushing this rail with the minecart on here. And in my mind, at least, it works. like that. So we will go here, pushed by this piston, we will travel here, and then after that happens, you see those two rails connect, and after that happens, we flip the last rail. Yeah, we flip the last rail, so it looks like that. And this, I hope, will make us go here. So in theory, it all sounds right? Fortunately, before I started to construct some redstone for that previous idea, I realized I can totally fit a third rail into this center piece right here, and from that point onwards it was only a matter of working out the exact components, the exact circuits that made our station work. Yes, I can say, I'm proud to say, that this is a fully functional design. It has one huge problem though, one very big problem. This is enormous. I really didn't anticipate this to be this huge. I knew it will be bigger than all the stations I've seen, but this is ridiculous. So it looks like I just placed some random redstone on wool, but it has some logic behind it, and you would probably all like to know how the system functions. So let's start with the middle bit. Going back to the very first idea of today's episode, I've come up with a rail layout like that. It almost worked. It had one problem though. We couldn't travel forward when the rails were laid like that. I didn't actually show that, but when the rails are on this axis, like they create this shape, we can easily travel to every direction we want. It was only this axis where there wasn't a possibility to kind of make a direct path to every destination. We had a problem. So what I've done is combine it with the crazy pistons idea, and now our station has two modes, one for traveling on each axis. When we arrive at the station and select our destination, the first thing the whole redstone madness here does is check if the rails are aligned properly or do they need switching up. It's really hard to show it there because, well, it's in the middle of all the other redstone lines, but I have a mock-up here. These buttons here are simulating the input we get from clicking a button on a certain axis there, and the lamps are simulating the place we take the output to the pistons above. And when we get an input, two things can happen. One of them is nothing, because these here are just regular pistons, and when we push that one, the system stays like it was before. So that's, I think, the simplest way I can check if the rails up there need switching. If the redstone block is here and the axis I want to travel on is connected to that piston, then upon activation the rails will switch. And it needs to happen in a very specific order. Here I just activate them clockwise, one by one, in the spacing of 2 ticks. And I also needed to power the redstone on 1 tick pulses, so how I've done it is just an observer line from here up to the piston. You can see it like right there. The bit I think I'm most proud of with this is how it deactivates, because now we need to start with a different rail basically, because if we were to push the piston, that piston here, this is this thing right here, so the system starts with this one if the rails are aligned on this axis, and pushes that one, that one, that one, that one, so the rails now look like this. But we can't start with this one because it would just break everything. So in order to start with the next one, I've done something like this. I just connected the end of the loop to the first lamp without creating a clock again. And what it does is deactivating the circuit in that order, so obviously the observers detect it and send the signal up to the pistons. And I can demonstrate it when we are on this axis and click this button, the rails switch. I really like how it looks, and obviously the same can happen if we are here. And now that the rails are aligned, when I click this button, nothing happens with those pistons. One thing you might have seen after the rails switch positions is that there is a lot of turning happening, and not always these are connected to selecting a destination we want to travel to. And this is also something I learned while making today's contraption, is that the rails really have a weird behavior on some occasions, but it is completely possible to learn it. So the rails have this kind of quirk that they are directional, and what that means is that while connecting two rails, other rails, they will have a preference. So when I take some rails and I'll put them like that, what you will see is the rail connecting this one to that one. I have no idea which way is that, but it doesn't really matter. The thing that matters is that they will always connect like that. Like, no matter how I will place these rails, it will always be something like this. So, in order to make the behavior of our station reliable and predictable, I send a pulse from the rail switching mechanism to all these 4 places here. These rails on wool are the ones that can switch to this side or this side. And what that does is make them connect to the preferable connection point, let's say. And because of that, I can basically manipulate the rails in the same way every time. It just makes the station work. It's a very important part. So after that, the only thing that needs to be done is switching the rails how we want them to be switched so we can travel in the selected direction. And I won't go into details how I do it. This is basically all these black-gray lines that go all over the place, and these ones here. This is the whole complicated system that makes the rails switch in the correct order at the correct moment, because we need to have quite a delay before we can start our minecart. We need to give this system here time to align the rails how they need to be aligned. There is one more thing I want to show you, and it's how I've made the direction selection mechanism. Under each button we have a redstone dust, and it's connected to a comparator. This comparator will produce an output only when we have proper signal strength here. And basically what it means is that when I push this button, the signal strength will be smaller, will be lower than if I pushed this button. And by setting up the signal strength on the side of the comparators in every place, basically, we've made the system to work only to push the signal through, let's say, only if the correct button is placed. On the other hand, all these buttons are connected to both the rail switching mechanism and also to the rail powering mechanism. We obviously need to go on, like we need to start. If this rail wasn't powered, we would just sit here and watch as the station works, and it's not really what we want. So there is one more thing I need to do in today's episode, and this is obviously ride the station, show you that it actually works. And which way do we want to go? Let's maybe go left. And now let's say I want to go forward. It works beautifully, doesn't it? And all of that was done to make the footprint of the station 4 blocks smaller. That's the essence of Madstone right here for you. If you like that crazy video, then make sure to leave a like. And if you want to see more of this craziness, then feel free to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss out on any of the episodes. And although it might seem wrong after what I've done here, remember, there is no such thing as bad creativity. See you next time.